The evacuation siren screamed through the dying colony of New Meridian as William checked the manifest one last time. His hands trembled, not from fear, but from the weight of what he was about to do. The Vrexian armada had given them 2 hours. Only 47 minutes remained. "Sir, we need to go now," Lieutenant Chen shouted over the chaos. "That's the last pod." William stood at the entrance of Escape Pod 7, watching the panicked crowd surge toward the launch bay. His eyes fell on a small figure being pushed and shoved by the desperate masses, a Kale child, her luminescent skin flickering with distress patterns. The Kale were allies, refugees themselves who had settled on New Meridian only 3 years ago. She couldn't have been more than 12 in human years. "There's no more room," someone screamed. The girl Maya, he remembered her name from the colony records, stumbled and fell. The crowd would trample her in seconds. William made his decision in a heartbeat. He launched himself from the pod entrance, shouldering through the mob. His arms wrapped around Maya's fragile frame just as a boot nearly crushed her hand. Her large, opalescent eyes widened in terror and confusion. "It's okay," William said, though he knew she probably couldn't understand English well. "I've got you." He carried her back to the pod, her weight almost nothing in his arms. Lieutenant Chen's face went pale when he saw what William intended. "Sir, no." "Get her inside," William ordered, his voice steady despite everything. "That's a direct command, Lieutenant." "William, you can't. The Kale are our allies. We don't leave children behind." He placed Maya gently inside the pod, where hands immediately pulled her to safety. Her eyes locked with his, those strange prismatic irises swirling with colors he had no names for. "Go," William said to Chen. "Get them out of here." The last thing he saw before the pod door sealed was Maya's small hand pressed against the window, her mouth forming words he couldn't hear. Then the pod launched, a streak of light against the darkening sky. William stood alone in the empty bay as the sirens reached their final pitch. He had 90 seconds, maybe less. There were no more pods, no more shuttles, no more chances. He walked to the observation deck and watched the Vrexian ships descend. At least he'd saved one more life. At least Maya would make it. The world went white. William woke to the smell of antiseptic and the steady beep of medical equipment. His eyes cracked open to reveal a sterile ceiling that made no sense. He was dead. He should be dead. "Easy, easy," a voice said, human, English. "You've been in cryo for 8 years." The doctor explained everything through William's fog of confusion. The Vrexians had bombarded New Meridian, but a small team of human military had mounted a desperate counterstrike. They'd found William in the wreckage, barely alive, and put him in emergency cryostasis. The war had ended 5 years ago. Humanity had won, but at tremendous cost. "You're a hero," the doctor said. "The survivor testimonies from Pod 7, they all talked about you, the man who gave up his seat." William didn't feel like a hero. He felt empty. Everyone he'd known was either dead or scattered across a dozen colony worlds. The universe had moved on without him. They gave him a small apartment on Europa Station and a pension. He spent his days staring at the ice fields below, wondering what the point of survival was when you had nothing left to survive for. That's when she came back. William was in the station's hydroponics bay, the only place that felt alive, when he heard a voice he didn't recognize but somehow knew. "William." He turned. The young woman standing there was Kale, her skin shifting through subtle patterns of nervous greeting. She was tall now, graceful, dressed in the silver uniform of the Kale Diplomatic Corps. But those eyes, those prismatic, swirling eyes, he would have known them anywhere. "Maya," his voice came out as a whisper. Her face broke into a radiant smile. "You remember me." "How could I forget?" He stood, feeling suddenly self-conscious in his worn civilian clothes. You're all grown up." 8 years for you in cryo," Maya said softly, stepping closer. 8 years for me learning, growing, never forgetting the human who saved my life. They sat among the tomato plants, and Maya told her story. How Pod 7 had made it to the evacuation fleet. How she'd been taken in by a Kale family on their homeworld. How she'd studied human languages, human culture, human history, all because of the man who'd sacrificed everything for a stranger's child. I became a diplomat because of you, Maya said. I wanted to build bridges between our peoples, to honor what you did. William shook his head. I didn't do anything special, anyone would have. No, Maya's hand touched his, her skin warm and humming with a faint bioluminescence. Not anyone, the others in that bay. They saw an alien child. You saw a person worth saving, worth dying for. I didn't die, William said weakly. You were willing to. Maya's eyes held his. And now I'm here to give you a reason to live. Over the following weeks, Maya became a constant in William's life. She brought him to Kale cultural events, introduced him to her adoptive family via holocall, and slowly pulled him out of his shell of survivor's guilt. She showed him recordings of the children from Pod 7, all grown now, all thriving. They'd built a memorial to him on New Terra, a statue of a man holding a child. They all remember, Maya said. Every single one. You gave us futures. But Maya had come for more than just gratitude. She'd been assigned to Europa Station as a cultural liaison, but her real mission was personal, to convince William that his story wasn't over. The Kale have a saying, she told him one evening as they watched Europa's surface through the observation dome. A life saved creates a bond across time. You saved mine. And in our culture, that means I'm responsible for making sure your sacrifice meant something. It did, William insisted. You became a diplomat, the others survived. That's enough. Is it? Maya challenged. William, you're only 42. You have decades ahead of you. Don't spend them alone mourning what you lost. Build something new. She offered him a position as a human Kale relations consultant. It was make work. Obviously, something she'd created specifically for him. But as the weeks passed, he found himself actually enjoying it. Learning Kale customs, teaching humans about their allies, facilitating understanding. And spending time with Maya. 6 months after she'd arrived, Maya found William in the same hydroponics bay where they'd reunited. I have to go to the Kale homeworld next month, she said. Diplomatic summit, but I was hopping. Would you come with me? William looked at her, truly looked. She'd been a frightened child once. Now she was a brilliant young woman who'd taken the gift of life he'd given her and turned it into a force for good in the universe. And somehow, impossibly, she'd done the same for him. Yes, he said, I'd like that. Maya's smile could have lit the entire station. Good. Because I may have already told my family you were coming. They've wanted to meet you for 8 years. William laughed, actually laughed for the first time since waking from cryo. You're manipulative. I learned from the best, Maya said. Humans are excellent negotiators. As they left the hydroponics bay together, William realized something profound. He'd thought his story ended in that launch bay on New Meridian. He'd thought giving up his seat meant giving up his future. But Maya had come back, and in doing so, she'd given him something infinitely more valuable than a seat on an escape pod. She'd given him a reason to believe that tomorrow could be better than yesterday, that connections forged in crisis could bloom into something beautiful, that a single act of kindness could ripple across years and light years, changing everything. Thank you, he said quietly. Maya took his hand. No, William, thank you, for seeing me when others looked away, for choosing hope when despair was easier. They walked together toward the future, a human and a Kale, bound by a choice made in the darkest moment, and the light that came after,